Welcome to the Tuesday, February 17th, 2015 regular business board meeting. I will now turn the meeting over to Dr. Marseille.
Thank you, Dr. Van Lynch. Welcome. Thank you for your presence tonight. Before we get started tonight's meeting, I want to share some information with the public. It is with deep and profound sadness that I must share with you the passing of one of our heritage students, Graham Dixon, a ninth grader. Graham died in a tragic, unexpected accident in his home on Saturday. He leaves behind a close, loving family, including his mother, Jennifer, father, Robert, and his older brother, Caleb, who is a current Harrington senior. Graham was an extraordinary young man whose warmth, curiosity, and passion for life and learning has left an enduring impact in our school community. He was a dedicated student, was especially active in TSA, where he was highly successful in the recent regional TSA conference. Graham will be greatly missed by all those who know and love him. At this time, I ask that you join me in honoring Graham Dixon with a moment of silence. Thank you. Please keep the Dixon family and all those affected by the tragic loss in your thoughts and prayers.
And on behalf of the Board of School Directors, we too want to offer our condolences, heartfelt condolences to the Dixon family. We're committed to supporting the family, the students, staff, and all those impacted by this tragic incident. Dr. Marseille?
At this time, I'd like to call to the microphone Dr. Martino, who is going to talk about the wonderful things happening at Kinwood and the friends and family we see here.
Absolutely, absolutely. This month, Kinwood has the wonderful opportunity of, one of the initiatives for the district was presenting those bright spots. And this year we really talked about those types of things that happen, outside the box score, outside of performance tracker, outside of PSSA, where there's some wonderful, amazing things that are happening in our district. And not only sharing those success stories, but also those stories of those accomplishments of our students. And today I'm actually here to honor and present to you our Green Council. Our Green Council was implemented at Kinwood approximately 4 years ago, kind of a tail off of our Green Club. Last year, they were honored by the Lower Merion Township Environmental Advisory Council with the Go for the Green Award. They came in first place. And this year, they are pretty much the driving force behind our district initiative, our energy initiative that Mr. Pacanane talked to us about this summer, but also we're doing district-wide. I could sit up here and talk about the Green Council. I could say all the wonderful things, but I thought it better to have the Green Council members themselves come up and tell you not only the wonderful things they're doing currently, but things they prepare to do in the future. So at this time, I would like to have our members of our Green Council come up and present to the board.
Members of the board, thank you very much for having us here tonight. We have heard that you asked Dr. Martino to tell you a little bit about what goes on at Kinwood, and he decided that the Kinwood Green Council should be the group to give you that information. To us, the reason for that is pretty clear. He has asked us to speak because of what we are doing as a group. If you are wondering exactly what it is that we are doing that would make our principal so proud, well, the answer is simple. We are saving the world. In order to do this, we have joined up with the district campaign to save energy and reduce the amount of pollution that our schools are responsible for. Ms. Diane Herron and her company Practical Energy Solutions, who have been hired by the district to help save energy district-wide, have done a lot to help us accomplish this goal. We came into the school on October 14th after school when most people were gone. We used 2 thermographic cameras like this to document opportunities for conserving energy.
These cameras work by taking pictures of the heat that emits from devices that are left on. As you can see here, heat shows up as orange, yellow, or white, while cooler areas show up as blue or purple. And just so you know, that's me. Here's our first example. We found computer monitors on, as you can see on the left, and we found computer processors running, as you can see on the right. This is energy waste. Computers should be completely shut down every night, not just put to sleep. And the buttons on the monitor should be turned off. Our IS department says this helps computers run better and faster because they get sluggish when they're left on all the time. This helps them troubleshoot problems when they do happen. We found lots of transformers plugged into the walls and power strips. Transformers use electricity 24/7, even if they are not charging anything, and even if they are not plugged into anything on the other end. This is because their job is to consistently reduce the voltage or step down the power. Anything with transformers should be unplugged, or if you have a power strip, just turn the on-off switch on the strip to off before you go home. It's important if you have a computer plugged into a power strip to shut the computer down first before you turn off the power strip. This will protect your computer. We found air conditioners left on running all night. As you can see, the cold air coming out of the air conditioner in the top picture. This uses a lot of energy. This is how it should look. The air conditioner was turned off for the night. When we arrived in the gym, all the ceiling lights were on, but no one was there. We counted 20 4x4 light fixtures and 18 can lights. Together, these lights use a lot of energy. We could not turn them off because you need a key to control the switch. We're asking the facility department if we can have more keys available so we can turn the lights off when no one's in the gym. We hope you like these energy-saving ideas and that you find some more of your own.
We gave this presentation to both the staff and students, and a lot has happened since then. Just talking about saving energy did a lot, but we also started a few initiatives to help get people to do whatever they can. We started a single switch campaign where we tried to promote the idea of only using one light switch instead of two switches that are in every room. With this simple move, we can save 33% of the electricity that is used for lighting. We also highlight the classrooms that are participating by announcing those who have been caught being green. The green counselors keep their eyes open as they walk around the school and make a note of any classroom that is helping us reach our goal of using less energy. We then give them a shout out on the morning announcements. The participation has been amazing. It seems like almost all of the school is getting caught being green, and those who don't get caught are sending emails to the Green Council teachers to make sure that it is known that they are also being green. Up next, we are trying to get Power Down Fridays going. Our plan is to try and get everyone to turn off all of their lights and unplug as many things as they can every Friday in order to save even more electricity. We realize this is asking a lot of our school community, so we are putting our persuasive writing skills to the test in order to convince Dr. Martino that this program should be put in place. Be ready, Dr. Martino. We are some pretty spectacular writers.
All of this has already led to some fantastic results. The number for the month of December have come out, and we've done pretty well as a district. We have just decreased the amount of energy we use by 12%. Compared to the past 3 years, if you look at the ranking, you'll notice there's one school at the top. That's right, it's Kenwood. Kenwood's number one and 18% reducing in energy usage for the month. That means we've saved about 10,000 kilowatt hours of electricity. We kept a lot of carbon dioxide out of air by doing that. In fact, removing that much CO2 is almost like having 266 trees planted in 1 month. In order to highlight this, we ask our awesome teachers and classmates to decorate 266 trees on our Green Council bulletin board. Within 20 minutes of asking for this help, all 266 trees were claimed by classrooms on every grade level. We've already started posting them on our Kinwood Woods, are growing really quickly. It also means that we have already saved our school nearly $1,000, and we're sure to save more as we keep up our efforts. Dr. Martino, if you need help trying to figure out how to spend that money, suggestion, more computers.
Not only have we been saving electricity, but we are also hoping to make some of our own. We have put in an application for a grant to fund a Green Council project for next year that will hopefully result in our building our very own winter run. The plan for this term run, which will be built by the Green Council, will be to have it generate enough electricity to shine a light onto our wonderful Kinwood garden. Speaking of our garden, we have that going on as well. Kinwood has led the charge to bring school gardens to our district. Every year, the Green Council helps with planting, watering, and weeding the garden. In the past, we have donated much of our harvest to Phil Abundance, and we are hoping to start working with the Narberth Food Bank as well. As you can see, the Green Council is doing some really great stuff at Kinwood, and all of it is possible only because we have the greatest staff and students in the world. Having them all behind us really lets us know that we are making a difference and that we can accomplish great things. We thank you for this chance to show off some of the awesomeness that goes on at Kinwood and ask for that whole saving the world thing. You're welcome. Any questions?
No question, but we're certainly proud of all the hard work you've done, and you make us both proud and a little ashamed of how we need to get at the top of that list as well. Very well done.
Actually, I would love the opportunity to play with that little infrared camera. So next time I'm in Kinwood, please make sure there's one available, and we'll do that as part of our tours. I also want to echo Dr. Van Lynch's thank you as you think about sustainability, but really helping to change behavior. Yes, the world does need saving, and I'm glad you're on call for that, because not only are you helping to educate your classmates, but you're also helping to educate the entire district, and that speaks volumes. So kudos to you, and thank you so much.
I mean, first of all, that the Friday thing that's after school's over on Friday, we're not all in the dark. But the other piece of it is, they presented this to our faculty. I mean, we all went through the initiative district-wide to do it, and obviously I could sit up there with a PowerPoint and talk about all these things, but when you have over 30 kids coming in and all of them presenting and talking to the faculty about their findings, I think it took all but 6 hours for the request of 27 power strips by just our faculty and staff to try and do the right thing. And like you said, the proof is in the pudding. I mean, they're at the top, and that's for a reason. It's not only the students, but obviously our staff is absolutely amazing, and I give them kudos, because it's a Kinwood thing, and it's wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Martino. Thank you for your staff as well.
Before we leave this topic, I also just wanted to thank Pat Ganan and Practical Energy Solutions, as well as everyone here for supporting getting the students involved in using their own facilities to learn about sustainability. So not only are we saving money through energy reduction, but we're getting the students involved in a real STEM education practical project. And I think that's incredibly innovative, and I just wanted to thank all of you for working together to make that happen. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Before we move to our next agenda item with an update on the strategic plan, there is a motion on the agenda tonight to discuss refinancing of bonds. And at this time, Glenn Willer is here, and I want to give him a few minutes to have an open dialogue before moving forward.
Sure. Yeah, as Dr. Mercier mentioned, we do have a resolution on the board. Glenn Willer from PFM, who's our financial advisor. There's really two items we have that he's going to review. Is one, the issuance of our 2015 A bond, which is the last of our financing plan for our current capital projects. We are recommending level payments for that particular bond issue, and then also the second part is a refunding of the 2007, partial refunding of the 2007 bond issue. So that is the resolution on the agenda tonight, which we'll have later in the evening. But I'm going to turn over to Glenn, who's kind of going to review with the board very briefly.
Okay, good evening. You have a document with a yellow cover page that I'm going to walk through. This is similar to ones we've shown you over the last couple of weeks, and I'll just try to highlight some of the important topics. As Vic mentioned, with respect to the new money on page number 2, the choices are to do a wraparound bond issue or level payment bond issue. The district used, the last two bond issues used the wraparound structure. We thought at this point it was appropriate time to switch over to the level debt service payment, which I'll show you a little bit later on in the handout. It gives you more flexibility down the road at some point. In the bottom part of the page, the refunding opportunities, you have two bond issues that would become attractive. The first is the Series A of 2006, which has already used its one advance refunding, so we need to wait until about this time next year to come back and refund that one, and we'll be monitoring it. The other series, in letter B, the series of 2007, it is allowed to be advance refunded now. The call date is not until 2017, so the proceeds of the new bond issue are invested until the call date at a low yield, but we can lock in some of the refunding savings. We felt it appropriate to at least do about half of that bond issue. The choices in the resolution are to refund all of the bonds, none of the bond, and our recommendation is to refund a portion of the bonds. If you turn to the next page, page 3, under letter number C, it shows the refinancing. We believe there would be about $2 million of savings. In the little chart off to the right there, we could structure that so that the savings would appear in the school's budget roughly a third, as described there on the far right. The timeline for this is at the bottom of the page. If authorized this evening, we believe we could be back as early as the March 16th with the results of both the new money bond sale and the refunding bond sale. If you turn to page 5, this is just a snapshot of this new money choice between the level payments and the wraparound. The red is the level payment model. In column number 7, it does have a slight increase in the mills needed. It would be 2 school years out, but you would have the potential for the refunding savings to help smooth that millage impact in. And again, then this would allow for a drop off in column number 6. In the school year 2026, there would be money would become available for other projects or other budget needs. So that's a quick summary of what's in front of you. Again, in the resolution, you have a box to pick either the level payment or the wraparound bond issue. And then with respect to the refunding, whether to do all of it, none of it, or a portion of it. And that's what's in the resolution. So do you have any questions?
I'd like to open it up to board questions at this time. Any questions? Diane?
Thanks, Glenn, for coming out yet again. A couple questions. So, unfortunately, we can't get this chart up on the screen, but if the difference between the 20-year level option and the 11-year wrap, it costs us about 400 grand more to do the level.
Over the life of the bond issue.
Over the 20
yeah,
years?
so some of that would be paid in those later years.
Okay, but it's costing the district more to do the level funding than it is to do the wraparound, right?
That's right.
And again, on this sheet, you have, it's going to cost 0.04 mils first year and 0.05 mils the second. And it looks like that's about $650,000 a year, is that correct?
Yeah, the full increase, yes. So in column number 5, it's 0.4 of a mil is the 268,000, and then about 5/100ths of a mil would be would take you up to 654.
And you're suggesting that the refinance of the other set of bonds would cover those costs, so the millage rate?
Well, it would give you a couple of years to phase that in.
Oh, I see.
Because the savings are sort of one time in those first 3 years, and then it goes away. So it would just give you a couple of years to phase in that extra.
So then the millage impact, if we use this funding, the refunding of the 07 bonds to cover this, it would cover it for the first 3 years, but then we'd have to.
Right, you still would have to get it in. You would have up to year 4 to get the full run rate into your budget.
And as opposed to the wrap where it's 0.04 mils the first year and then that's it.
And then you're done. That's right.
Okay. Anybody else?
Questions? Please.
But while there is issues, though, if we do, I think one of the issues we didn't discuss today, though, is if we need another loan 3, 4, 5 years from now, that going level gives us more flexibility, and that is one of the concerns that we're looking into in this decision. Is that correct?
Yeah, I don't mean to speak for Vic, but I think that was why our recommendation was to do the level payments, is that it gives the district more flexibility 4 or 5 years down the road if you had other capital projects to have the wraparound option at that time.
Any other questions? Okay. Glenn, could you talk just a little bit about issuance cost for what the recommendation is and what the district can expect in terms of service costs?
Well, I think for the $10 million of new money, don't quote me, but I think the last bond issues, it was around $80,000 for legal fees, credit rating, financial advisor fees, paying agent, those kind of things. The bond discount, which can be a larger component, is bid out and is part of the competitive sale process. And by doing, if you choose to do both of these transactions at the same time, there would be some economies by doing them both at the same time.
And those fees are pretty standard.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Any additional questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Glenn, and the motion will be throughout the agenda item. I'd like to pass the microphone over to Dr. Doria and Ms. Hockfield, who brought a couple of colleagues with them to kind of briefly highlight some of the work of their strategic plan and next steps. Before you start, I do want to apologize for the audience members sitting in the back. We are having technical difficulty with the screen to my right, to your left, that should be working, but unfortunately that is not. So We only have one monitor, and that is the one behind me, but we're trying to get that fixed as quickly as possible. But in the meantime, we do have a monitor, and if you, like me, have to squint, please move forward, because there are seats available.
Thank you. Good evening. I do have to share a wonderful view that I have. So we're always here with business and oftentimes serious topics. And to see the children come up, and I get to watch you and your faces, and everyone was smiling and joyous, and it's really the reason that why we're all here. So I thank you for that and the work that you do, because there was a shine across the front of the room. So thank you for that. It was lovely to see. So again, good evening, and we want to provide a very brief update on the strategic plan of where we were and where we're going. We want to again thank the board and Dr. Marseille for your leadership and vision in this work, because it is so exciting. And we're going to do a very brief review and some of the updates that we have. Just an overview and a reminder for some that may not have been here before, or just to recap. We have one mission and one vision, but really two documents. So we have the state compliance document, which is a checklist really for 3 years with very limited options for choices. And then because of that, we developed our comprehensive strategic plan all forward to really guide us in our work. And there are a couple of things that are different about this comprehensive strategic plan than any other plan that we've done thus far. One is the unique vision that you have given to the work. A second piece is the facilitated collaboration that occurred for the creation of the plan, but that never stopped. So as we continue and we go through the cycle of implementation, it's that constant conversation with all groups to make sure that we are really on point. The bold statements of strategic intent that have turned into our strategic pathways is key and unique. And the actual flow of the document. Previous documents, and many across the country, are binders with hundreds and hundreds of pages. But this is really our live document that we get to move forward in a very positive and creative way. Our implementation cycle that we're going to share a little bit about this evening. And the actual amount of time that we've identified to see the change, and realizing that it doesn't happen overnight. And that's why we're really looking at 5+ years out.
So first of all, thank you for entertaining us again tonight. As Dr. Doria just said, the five bold statements that you've gotten accustomed to hearing us talk about, we've now that we are in the implementation stage, we're referring to these as 5 strategic pathways as we're moving forward. So in many previous presentations, we've taken you through each one of these 5. And we just want you to know that, as Dr. Doria said, we are working hard to bring them to light right now. Our all forward 5 strategic pathways, in each of the statements, in each of our pathways, they're divided into 7 different parts. And we just remind you of this with this slide, that under each one of the pathways, there are 7 very specific things that we refer to. And that's what this slide that brings to light for you.
Sure. Through the focused conversations that we've had with administrators, teachers, students, families, community members, we have been able to identify our leading priorities moving forward. Focus to the top is really the assessments, the grading, the reporting of grades, and how we can connect and really look at that in a different way. The second piece was really the exploration of time. So we hear time and schedules come up over and over again, and really in twofold. We're looking at the instructional time, but we're also looking at the time for professional learning. We hear of transformative curriculum, and what's really surfacing with that is the connection to technology, the interconnections between subjects, being very collaborative and intentional with that, and really having student-driven voice with what that collaboration looks like, what the space can and will look like. The expansion of our professional learning communities at all levels. The ones that we have fully developed in high schools, how we can be deeper and grow stronger, and then the implementation at the elementary level as we move forward. Another big piece is really teacher leadership and building capacity. So how we can identify teacher leaders within our schools and build that capacity for the leadership throughout. And then the development of alternative revenue sources and having conversations and moving deeply in that area.
So as we are moving into this implementation stage, we are going through various parts of our implementation plan. Right now, in phase one, we are identifying bright spots, and you hear in every one of our updates the different bright spots that are going on in each of the schools. So it was so great to hear from Dr. Martino tonight and see the students from Kinwood talking about a bright spot at Kinwood Elementary School. In addition, right now we are talking about and we are putting together as part of our vocabulary that we've used throughout our learning journeys. In fact, we have a learning journey coming up where a number of us across levels, which is so unique with this plan. So from elementary school to middle school to high school, we have teachers, principals, supervisors taking a learning journey to see a school district in Northern Virginia where they're doing many of the things that we've been talking about. So what's unique about that is not that we're going on a trip or that we're seeing a new school district, but that we're doing it across levels. We're going to see all kinds of things that are of interest to us right now. In phase two, as we analyze bright spots, we'll start looking at what's the research, what are some prototypes that we're trying, what are some prototypes that people have ideas for, and what are the professional learning that we need in order to bring those to light. In phase three, how do we replicate these bright spots? What are the high points? What are the things that we need to be aware of as we move forward, monitoring the things that we are doing, evaluating the bright spots, evaluating the prototypes, engaging in professional learning? I think you'll see the same language throughout. It's all about what are the things that we need to do to bring this plan to life? What are the things that we need to do to evaluate the work that we're doing, who needs to be involved, and what professional learning needs to be involved. In all of this, again, unique K through 12, and you'll keep hearing that, unique teachers, administrators, building administrators, supervisors, directors, all of us working together to make this happen. So while there is so much that is unique to this plan, it is all forward as the plan says, and that's where we are right now. I take great pleasure in introducing two other members of our leadership team right now who you've heard from before, Doug Young and Gwen Nardowitz.
So as we move forward with implementing All Forward, we're spending a lot of time communicating. And part of that is communicating the tools of the plan. You've heard us talk about bright spots. So what is a bright spot? It's things that are happening in the district that align with the plan. The group of Kinwood students who came in this evening were the perfect example of student-driven curriculum, of curriculum that's real world and helping to bring their learning, helping them to take ownership for their learning. That's a bright spot. And that's something that we want to look at, and we want to see how could we replicate that enthusiasm and that ownership in other settings. Another tool key to the plan's implementation are learning journeys and immersion experiences. Both use observation, just in different ways. So immersion experiences are use observation of our own system. So that could look like a high school teacher going into a kindergarten classroom to see strategies that are used, how we start that culture of learning. It could also look like our elementary teachers coming up to visit our high school teachers, spending time in their classrooms to see how our curriculum spirals and sort of how that foundation that's laid early on develops and matures over time. So again, that's an immersion experience, and that's using observation to learn within our own system. On the other side of that coin our learning journeys. And again, that's using observation, but this time of a system outside of our own. So like Ms. Hockfield just described, going other places, learning, looking closely at what they do and how we could take elements of that and make it our own. Another key implementation tool is prototypes. And prototypes let a large system like ours to be nimble and to be flexible, to test ideas on a small scale in a rough, rapid way before they get large and get complicated. We have a way, a little bit of insight to see, is this something that we want to explore further? So prototypes are another key tool. And we're spending a lot of time with the plan's language because it matters. It matters that we're all on the same page. It matters clarity precedes competence. So we need everyone to be on board so that we're all speaking the same language. We're using a variety of communication cascades to share information about the plan. We spent time in our principals meetings, in our elementary and secondary team meetings, in our academic council meetings, really talking, looking, reflecting on what the plan says, using our faculty meetings, CIPD meetings, PLC meetings, all of these different networks of communication that we have, HSA meetings with parents, and creating student-friendly strategic pathway statements, creating a way for our students to access the plan. We know that although we hope it engages them in a really powerful way, bringing them into it. And so part of what we need to do before the end of the school year is to create and share, first create statements that they can easily access and then share it with them. So that's what we're planning for right now as well. Do you want to go?
Sure. Great. Thanks, Gwen. Good evening. So just kind of to continue along those themes, now that we have this language, now that we have the concept of prototyping, learning journeys and immersions, there needs to be a way for folks to access those opportunities. So defining what those opportunities are, how to access them, and then communicating it out to our staff is a priority. We've developed a format for doing that, which is going to be hosted on our website, and folks can interact with that part of the website, which will be part of our larger strategic plan portion of the website, and submit their ideas for participation in those kinds of experiences. We are developing an inventory of bright spots, so if folks want to know what's going on in the district right now, examples of prototypes that are occurring right now, again, on our website, a full range of opportunities and experiences that folks are already participating in and ideas that they're already considering that we think will be helpful for members of the school community as they kind of think about their own ideas and how they can engage, can use that as food for thought. Having materials available, obviously the website is an important piece, but kind of really kind of a one-sheeter that takes the plan and really breaks it down into kind of the key themes. A really accessible document that folks throughout the school community can rely on and can refer back to. We envision it as something that can hang on a classroom wall, that can hang on a refrigerator, but also in a PDF format can be shared very easily across stakeholder groups. And ultimately developing ongoing materials that are relevant, that connect the different areas of the plan, that keep people updated as we move forward throughout the process. And the website during this timeline, December through June, will be launched. We're excited about that. Most of the content is already there, and we've gotten some great input from faculty and other staff members as to kind of the look, the feel, and the way they want to interact and share ideas in that communication vehicle.
So we are very much also concerned about accountability and how we're going to hold ourselves accountable through the course of this plan. Some metrics we've identified, they're traditional, they're existing, and we intend to continue to use them in that way. But we're also spending time thinking about what are different metrics, different ways that we can measure our growth that we think more fully represent the pathways that we're pursuing. We're looking to allocate funds, so doing research about how we would move forward with, again, we have prototypes, so it's hard to predict at this point, but we're confident that as prototypes start to yield some information and as we're exploring our bright spots and where we want to replicate and explore them further, that as we're gathering that research, that we'll be able to identify specific areas for funding. And again, we've been thinking all along that they be consistent within our working budget. We're engaging the LMEA in conversation around the plan. The LMEA was represented really well on our steering committee, and we believe that to be one of the strengths, the collaboration that was involved between or with the association.
And one of the key pathways that is defined in our plan refers to engaging community, and we think that it'll be critical as we move forward with some of our innovative ideas to draw upon the resources that we have in our community to take those ideas forward and make use of the expertise that exists here. I think sometimes we forget just how many incredible resources we have, and right at our fingertips, folks who are willing to volunteer their time, their services, their knowledge, and we have found a very receptive audience when we have gone out and asked for help. So we are asking folks for help in a format that we think will be really interesting and engaging, which is the idea of an innovation network, which is a group of volunteers who will serve as an advisory board to help kind of push the plan forward, but also to connect us to other resources in our community, in our network, so to speak, that can help kind of make this plan come to fruition in ways that are financially responsible, that are interesting, and that really make use of the folks, the experts that we have in our own community. And at this time, we will take any questions.
Thank you for the presentation. Are there questions or comments at this time from the board? Marissa? Get to go first.
I was just curious if you could talk a little bit about your first, well, it's not your first, because I know you did some in writing the strategic plan, but the upcoming learning journey and what's about that district or school that got on your radar.
Sure. We've been working for the last 2 or 3 years, you may know the name from some of our contracts, with someone named Peter Noonan, who is a superintendent in Fairfax County, Virginia. And it so happens that every time we bring something up that we're going to do, he says, come on down and see it. We have that. So we were able to put together a bunch of things that we were really interested in seeing. And it all happens that in Fairfax City School District and a couple of the surrounding school districts, we're going to get to see a bunch of things. So we are going to take a look at elementary and secondary Mandarin programs, both of which they have in their school district. We are going to look at elementary PLCs and see the scheduling required to really do PLCs in a way that teachers have time to collaborate the way we'd like them to. We are looking at and playing around with, and you'll hear more, so I don't want to, do the spoiler alert now, but some new ways to configure some time in the high schools where we look at what's called a power hour of lunch, where students have a little bit of a unique time period during the lunch block. And we're going down to see what that looks like in action. And I think that was everything. I think that's the, oh, I'm sorry, one more. Middle school IB. There is a middle school IB school that we're just going to take a look at. Again, these are not all things that we're coming back and saying, we have 10 new things that have to happen this year, but there's some things that we've really been talking about, and we're going to get to see them in action. And again, as I said, one of the nice parts is there's a a bunch of us going. So it's going to be a good day and a half to take a look at a bunch of things.
Thanks, that sounds great.
Lori? No?
I just wanted to also commend everyone. I think the strategic plan is really turning into a great platform to empower teachers, students, and the community to really help us achieve those 5 principles we're pursuing. And I also agree that the Green Club and this Power Down Challenge was a great example of project-based learning that actually provided a real benefit for the district and incredible benefit for the students. And I really appreciate how the teachers and the administration work together to support that effort, which clearly will need to happen moving forward to really live into the plan. So I just wanted to say I think this is an exciting moment and look forward to the next steps. Thank you.
Dan?
Thanks. One of the priorities that you said was development of alternative revenue sources. And can you just speak to that a little bit? How do you envision that? What kinds of thoughts you have towards trying to make that happen?
Sure. I think a couple of things that we've talked about at great length is in California, school districts for years have had foundations that have supplemented district funds in a really significant way. Pennsylvania has been a little bit slower to adopt that model. We do have education foundations. We have a thriving education foundation in our own community, but creating endowments and following a model that is consistent with kind of a university, independent school model. It's something that is relatively new to public education here in Pennsylvania, but we think we have an incredibly valuable opportunity in Lower Merion School District to explore it. And it's going to take time to have a full development plan in place, but it's certainly something we think, as we've developed the plan, that we think is worth pursuing. And it may be essential in terms of sustaining the kinds of programs and experiences that we want in our school community.
If I can follow up, Diane, on that, great question. You know, some of the other things that we're seeing is also in terms of working with other districts around shared resources. We have a meeting scheduled with our dear friend, Dr. Kelly, at Radnor, and to begin the exploratory conversation around some ways in which we can offset, share costs when there's common vision around particular issues, especially around professional learning experience as an example, to do that. And then one of the things, if I can use the term outside the box, but I think people are exploring, is that there's no question that we have an outstanding instructional staff. And no question that Lower Merion School District has a very specific brand and a brand identity. Individuals literally are moving here for that particular experience. And there are individuals who can't afford that particular experience, but we're trying to figure out ways in which, how do we create a system that allows greater access to those individuals who want to experience a Lower Merion coursework, a Lower Merion experience that may not be afforded to them, and how do we leverage that, that brand identity? Very similar to not necessarily MOOC courses, which are massive open online platforms, but something in which we have our teachers creating curricula and providing that for individuals who don't have access to that, and connecting with other partners to do that, not only domestically but globally as well, is one of the areas that we were thinking about.
Additional questions? I had a question. You talked about prototypes, and I'm assuming we're looking around the district at all the schools to see what prototypes and bright spots are in place. So I'd like to hear how you're going about that and what that looks like in terms of identification. And then as we identify the prototypes and bright spots, what are the conversations that the team is having early on about scaling some of those up? And what will be the process that you're envisioning?
Okay, so I can share part of that with the collection of bright spots. So again, using our existing communication cascades, starting with building principals and curriculum supervisors and engaging them in that conversation, and then asking them to take that charge of identifying bright spots to those that they interact with. So at a faculty meeting, for example, that I participated in, a principal said to his department chairs and asked his department chairs to be in contact with his department members. What do we do that we're really proud of? And so that's happening in these small communication avenues, okay? So they then, so it's like the message branches out and then it comes back in. So we're making use of those avenues to collect them. Doug mentioned using our website to also have that be like a central housing space for them. So we will be able to share them for people across the district. So, for example, as a former teacher at Howard, and if I want to see what the bright spots are that are happening at Penn Valley Elementary School, I can look to see what that building's really proud of. In terms of prototypes, it's somewhat of a similar communication cascade that we're using, making sure that everybody's real clear about what it means to prototype in this way. So it's not necessarily just a new idea that's not related to the plan. I mean, that's great, and we love that, but I mean, we want new ideas that are firmly, it's like that tight and loose, right? So we're real tight with what our priorities are, but loose with the innovation around that. So again, teachers are making use of their PLC meetings, their grade level team meetings to talk about what if we reported grades differently? Or what if we made different use of win time or academic recovery? So allowing those conversations to happen over time, and it does take time for an idea to really to kind of flush it out. Once we know that, again, using our website to collect those ideas, we want to share it with the leadership team. So making use of that core leadership team to kind of review information and then as well as the innovation network for connections that may be needed to help kind of filter information at that higher level.
One example that may kind of be kind of an aha for people listening. We have very standard ways for mapping curriculum. Companies put out curriculum maps. We've adopted some. We've changed some. We've tweaked them to make them our own. But we had a group of art teachers at one of the schools who said, "What if curriculum online looked different?" And they came to us and they said, a group of us, and they said, "If we come up with something, can we run with it a little bit?" And so they've been working for the past couple months to put together the art curriculum at one of the high school levels that they're going to be sharing probably at an upcoming meeting. And it blew me away because it looks nothing like the curriculum maps that you've seen online. It's using all kinds of technology. It has all kinds of artwork popping on and off the screen. And that's kind of one of those ideas that just germinated from this. It's not to say that all curriculum is going to look like this online and that there's going to be some crazy prototype of what curriculum needs to look like, but it's really fun and it's interesting and it's lively and it's kid-centered. And it really just came from a group of 4 teachers sitting around and said, "What if?" And then kind of getting the go-ahead to say, okay, run with it and let's see what it looks like. So I think that's kind of the things that are germinating and kind of percolating all throughout the district right now, and it's really fun to see teachers taking opportunities to do things like this that they might not have done before.
Thank you.
Could I just add one more thing? Because I know you just tapped into something great, and I promise I'll stop. What Marcy just alluded to, like it's intrinsically motivating. Like why would somebody want to prototype something, or why does someone want to say like I really want to get on this learning journey and I want to go check that out? And I think it's because it is. It's really inspiring to my colleagues to think about like being part of something that affects you and something bigger than you. So the intrinsic motivation that this plan is really tapping into through the innovation, it's really exciting.
Thank you. Please.
You know, I just want to praise your team for this work and really thank the board for allowing us to think very differently with regards to this process. And I guess it's bragging, but I'll say it. No one else in the Commonwealth is thinking this way around a strategic planning process. And what fitting then Lower Merion School District to do that. You know, and what we didn't want, as we learned through other strategic plans, is that, which is why this leadership team meets every week, is that we didn't want this to lie dormant for 2 months, 3 months, and then we try to brush it off the shelf and say, hey, what were we supposed to do this week or last month? What we're going to do next month? So it's really this active participation in not just monitoring, but providing supports in place for the plan. And I know every Thursday or every Wednesday, the team tries to carve out as much time as possible to check in with that. And I think that it speaks to the attention that this particular plan really needs and deserves in terms in reaching its potential. So I do want to thank the board for allowing us to think differently about that, but thank the administration for really investing the time to put this into place. And I know that we are many phases out, we're in early phases, but I do want to publicly thank all of your work and your continued work throughout this process.
Thank you again. At this time, I would like to take audience recognition on agenda items only. If you could come and sign up with Ms. LaPera, there is a 3-minute time limit, and if you could give us a general idea of where you reside in the district, we'll take audience recognition on agenda items only at this time. Denise, should we going to start with the speakers? Okay, first speaker, please.
Ms. Seltzer, is it Setzer?
Hello, my name is Adrian Seltzer, and I've been looking at the way our taxes have been growing here in Lower Merion Township, and where I have no problems with what the teachers are paid, their pensions, which might be contrary to other things. I just have a bunch of questions that looking at the budget did not answer. I want to thank Diane for sending me the link to the budget. I'd like to know where legal fees are in the budget. I mean, the gentleman that was just up here talked about $80,000 in debt service to lawyers and financial analysts. I couldn't find anything that mentioned legal and those type of professional fees in the budget. I also know that a lot of lawyers are used to litigate with parents who have special needs children, and I was wondering how much those costs were versus how much it would actually cost to educate those kids instead of spending a whole bunch of money with lawyers. You also commented on Fairfax, Virginia, and whatever plans you've been coming up with, they have it. How much do they spend per student? You're also talking about shared costs. I think one of the biggest costs outside of salaries in the school districts is health insurance. Have you thought about going out and getting together all the school districts in the state of Pennsylvania and self-insuring? That would cost, you would take the middleman out and it would save you a fortune. So.
We already do that, ma'am.
You do that? And your medical costs are that high? Okay. Oh, look, a little sign. That's so cute. Okay, I feel like I'm at the Oscars now. But I would like to find out what the Fairfax, Virginia costs are for the students. And there has to be other ways to cut costs that in taking all of your initiatives to have greater learning capacity for our students, you might also take some of that effort and look at ways to make it a little more cost effective. I thank you very much.
Thank you. Ms. Seltzer, could you tell us where you reside in the district, just generally?
I'm near South Ardmore Park.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Bradius?
Good evening, board members. In January, I received a modest increase in my salary, and then I learned that 20% of it will go to the school board because my property taxes will increase. I keep telling myself that public education is a public good, but after 16 straight years of tax increases, it is clear that this school board has forgotten that public schools are paid for by compulsory taxation, not voluntary tuition. According to the school district website, diversity is valued and celebrated, but year after year tax increases just raises the invisible bar higher for entry into the township. These tax increases have transformed Lower Merion into the equivalent of a gated community. We now have a new class of people residing in Lower Merion, which prefers its children volunteer to build a school in Nepal rather than be a junior firefighter in Ardmore. We have raised a generation in Lower Merion which has no rootedness to the place where they were born. But why should they? Success for our high school graduates now means to move far away as possible rather than return to Lower Merion with their master's degrees. But when the romance of the city wears thin, and it's time for our millennials to return from Portland, Brooklyn, or Fishtown, to raise a family in a place with good schools, then the irony will set in that our graduates of Lower Merion and Harriton will not be able to return because the taxes that paid for their education are now too high for them to buy a home in Lower Merion. Superintendent Marseille likes to talk about conversation and engagement with the community. The best way to do so is to allow this tax increase to be decided by referendum, as allowed by Act 1 on May 19th, the next election day. Although the school district may be eligible for the Act 1 exemptions, that does not mean you have to apply for them year after year. Let's vote on it as the law permits. Imagine the lesson in civics it would be for our students. They have learned that 2015 is the 50th anniversary of the Voting Rights Act. And many have seen the film Selma about the struggles to obtain the right to vote by African Americans. Little do they know that their own parents are denied the right to vote by this very school board. If you're so certain that you have the public support to raise our taxes, then give us a vote on May 19th. If every expense in this $246 million budget is justified, then it should be no contest in a referendum. You'll easily win. So let the conversation begin, as Superintendent Marseille likes to say. But all I hear is silence, because silence is your power.
Thank you. Next speaker, please. Is that it?
Andrew, is it Lang? I'm sorry, I can't read your handwriting.
Thank you, everyone. I'm a Lower Merion Township homeowner and resident, and I was very
Can
upset.
you, I'm sorry, sir, I apologize. I'll give you back your time. Can you please introduce yourself?
Sure,
and
my name
start
is
over
Andrew
again?
Wong, and I'm from Wynwood. I'm a Lower Merion Township homeowner and resident, and I was very upset when I heard that there would be an almost 4% increase in the school tax. I was even more angry that this district would be applying for the budget exemptions that allow it to raise the budget beyond the Act 1 limit of 1.9%. I strongly urge the board to not increase the school taxes at all, and instead encourage the board to find ways to cut spending. Seniors and people who are on fixed or limited incomes cannot well tolerate these constant tax increases. And I am not a senior, but I already know, and this makes me sad, that I will not be able to stay and retire here in Lower Merion. I always thought that I would just stay here in my current home and grow old here, and I would be done with moving. But it's becoming clear that with the constant tax increases here, I will not be able to stay in my home. I hope that you all seriously think about this when you think about the burdens that you are placing on the community. When you think about these burdens, I also hope that you really consider comparing our district, although very highly ranked, to other similar districts such as Tredyffrin and Radnor, which also do not have similar pension and salary obligations. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Gallagher?
Hello, my name is Steve Gallagher. I'm 213 North Narberth Avenue. That's in Narberth. My family's been residents of Lower Merion School District since 1924. Probably had 50 children go through the system. And I'm just recently focusing in on it. I don't think the school board represents my interest if I don't have children in the school. I am one of the seniors who can't afford to live in the area anymore. So and I don't know all the details, and you guys spend an exorbitant amount of time trying to figure this out, and I really admire you for that. But we're the only school district, I think, that follows the state mandates for special ed, because everyone else sends their kids into our district. We run special programs on Mandarin. I don't want my children necessarily to take Mandarin, nor do I want to pay for a Mandarin class, although I recognize that the world is changing. So I agree with a couple of the other speakers that allow us to vote on this, and if I'm the one in the wrong, so be it. But I have many, many retired people that are just fed up with paying the 75% taxes in the last 6 years. It's gone just crazy. And thanks for your good work.
Thank you.
Every year, my name is Jim Dorn from Gladwin. On a personal note, every year I have to work another day or two to supplement the increases in my school taxes. So it's no wonder that I consider you my enemy. But it shouldn't have to be that way. You should look at us as the taxpayers as your partner, not as somebody that you just milk every year. It really is hard to live with when you're trying to approach retirement. I'm also vice president of the Gladwin Civic Association, and sometimes we have as many as 4 of our township commissioners come and speak to us. Why let them have all the fun and glory? Our next meeting is Tuesday night, the 24th, at the Gladwin Fire Company. Won't one of you or 2 of you, or all of you for that matter, come and explain the need for the tax increase to the Gladwin Civic Association? Sincerely, please come. Thank you.
Thank you. If there are other speakers on agenda items, would you please come sign up with Ms. LaPera at this time? Thank you.
Hi, Jeff Asay. I'm in Narberth. I've been posting with some other folks in the community on different community networks, numbers that are coming directly either from the Pennsylvania State Board of Education or from the district presentations. And if we had followed just the index, this is from one of your slides, since 2005-06 school year, our tax increase would be half what you are proposing after including this year. We would be up 35% since 2005-06 instead of 70%. And I ask you on behalf of the seniors who live in the community, for the lower income members of the community, to ask a little bit more of, you're the board, we're your constituents, we're your stockholders. You're the board, you have a team of people that work for the community in the schools, and you have to ask more of them to stretch a dollar once in a while. We're not a blank check, we're not an unlimited resource as your taxpayer. We're asking you to do a little bit more. Now, I don't know if you look at metrics, meaning you compare yourselves to other communities, other suburban, high-performing school districts, but I can tell you that our spending per student for instruction versus what I've heard Radnor brought up by the superintendent, we are 20% higher per student spending on instruction than Radnor. I don't know about anybody else. Maybe you can show me some metrics. Are we 20% better than Radnor? Because if we're not, we need to cap the taxes now. We've built 2 new schools. It's time to start saying, we got to make this money last, and we got to stretch a dollar here and there. Now you have an opportunity with a new contract coming up at the end of the year. I'm sure there's negotiations going on. I don't think it should all be on the teachers. I think there's probably a lot of fat in other areas that we can look at. We have a significant amount of money being spent on debt servicing, so it disturbs me when I hear that there's going to be new debt incurred, although I also don't know a lot of the details. It sounds like it might just be retiring debt and bringing along new debt. But I would like a broader conversation with the public about why we continue to raise taxes and what the metrics are relative to our other communities in the area. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any additional speakers? Okay, thank you. We already,
Well, I didn't use my whole.
you can use, we'll have public comment at the end of the meeting, Ms. Seltzer, so we'll be glad to take your comment then. At this time, we're going to move forward with the rest of the meeting. Thank you. Okay, Dr. Marseille?
Thank you. I'm going to move to human resource action.
Okay. I'm sorry, my apologies. All right. Approve, the board will approve, is asked to approve the minutes from the following Board of School Director meetings: February 2nd, regular board business meeting; February 9th, Education Committee Board meeting; and accept the minutes from the following committee meetings: February 2nd, Curriculum Committee meeting; February 3rd, Finance Committee meeting; February 6th, Policy Committee meeting; February 12th, Facilities and Purchasing meeting. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Dr. Van Lynch. I'd like to move the human resource action item. The superintendent recommends that the Board of School Directors approves the attached human resource action as listed in exhibits HR-1 through HR-5 per the attached exhibits.
Any questions or comments? Is there a motion to approve? Second? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Yeah, I believe at this time I'd like to pass over to Dr. Gilbert, who will have some information about the curriculum committee of the board meeting.
Thank you, Dr. Marseille. The curriculum committee of the board met on February 2nd. And I'm going to give a little report right now. Took place a while ago, but it was because I think of a snow cancellation, so we're a little bit off here. So the administration is proposing a summer school option in addition to an after-school and school day option for students to complete the project-based assessment required if they have not passed the Keystone. This specific proposal is for a summer school class to be offered for algebra and biology this upcoming summer. The administration has estimated that approximately 20 students will take the 3-week courses at a total of $8,000 in teacher salary, and the goal is to offer students a summer option so that taking multiple project-based assessments don't curtail course selection during the year. The administration is not recommending that students be charged for this summer course, and because the Keystones are new, the administration is trying to figure out the best options for students. Questions were asked related to costs, what other districts are doing, and the number of students, and the committee recommended approval of the proposal to the full board. In addition, the administration presented an update on our experience with PA Core Line curriculum instruction and assessment shifts, which we already got the update to the full board from Dr. Doria and Ms. Hockfield, but I will give a summary at this meeting. So in 2013, the district began to align curriculum and district assessments to PA Core to provide professional learning to support the changes, to increase instructional time in relevant areas, to integrate technology, and to embrace a culture of change. And so we reviewed curriculum implications for English and language arts and math, and we reviewed many actions taken to ensure that all students are college and workforce ready, that professional development is appropriate and available, that instructional time is reallocated, that students are supported at both the elementary and secondary level, and that assessments are aligned. We reviewed changes in the PSSA that will be coming this year, which reflect the PA Core shifts. For example, in literacy, to kind of more depth, rigor, and emphasis on nonfiction as well as fiction, and the board requested more information be available on our website. In addition, we reviewed a number of contracts which are on the agenda this evening. The Kagan contract and the Glazer contract, which are both professional development related. One, learning how K through 2 teachers can more effectively structure and embed cooperative groups in their instruction, and one which is bringing together people who do computer instruction in several secondary departments and trying to align that work. So that's the summary. Our next meeting is March 2nd at 8:30 a.m. in this room. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Gilbert. The administration recommends that the Board of School Directors approves the overnight trip request from Lower Merion High School Boys Lacrosse to go to Annapolis, Maryland, March 13th through the 14th, 2015.
Any questions or comments? Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Dr. Van Lynch. This is in relation to the update with Curriculum Committee of the Board. The administration recommends that the Board of School Directors approves a letter of agreement with Kagan Professional Development for professional development services on March 6, 2015 to 150 teachers regarding how K through 2 teachers can more effectively structure and embed cooperative groups in their instruction. The cost is $8,500 for the consulting fee plus $44.20 for attending materials.
Any questions or comments? I did have one question. For the K-2 teachers, is this across all 6 elementary schools? Please, thank you.
Yes, it's for all 6 elementary schools. And this was the same opportunity that we gave to 3 through 5 teachers in the
Okay.
beginning of the year.
Great, thanks for that clarification. All right. Is there a motion to approve?
I so move.
Is there a second? Oh, did you have a question? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Excuse me, apologize, my mic wasn't on. Thank you, Dr. Van Lynch. The administration recommends that the Board of School Directors approve the proposal from Infrastructure regarding the professional development about STEM and business programs on the afternoon of March 6, 2005, for a fee of $1,500.
Any questions or comments? Is there a motion to approve? Is there a second? Second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. The administration recommends that the Board of School Directors approves the professional development training agreement with the MCIU for training regarding peer coaching for co-teaching on March 4th and March 9th. Cost is $1,200 plus mileage and materials.
Any questions or comments? I had a question. Dr. Marseille, does MCIU discount this given that we're full members?
Yes, they are. As a matter of fact, Dr. George, who is the new director of the Montgomery County IU, has put measures into place to better support districts, and will be optimistic about reducing those rates even further moving into the next year and the year after that.
Okay, great. Good to know. Is there a motion to approve?
I so move.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
The administration recommends that the Board of School Directors approve the agreement to have Lynn Dorfman of Pulp to provide a full day of professional development to third grade teachers on subject matters on March 6, 2015, for a fee of $1,500.
Is there are there questions or comments? Is there a motion to approve? Is there a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. The administration recommends that the Board of School Directors approve the student services listed items as listed, agreement for students receiving non-district educational services per the attached exhibit SS-1 through SS-2.
Are there questions or comments? Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. The administration recommends that the Board of School Directors approves the agreement with Easter Seals for the following special education tutoring, occupational therapy, and speech language services provided to the district at an hourly rate of $92.50 through $135.
Any questions or comments? Dr. O'Leary, please.
I know we use a number of vendors, both for regular year and for summer programs. I'm not sure if it's just Easter Seals that we use. Do we get any feedback on these programs from the parents or students?
Good question. Do you think, Ms. Frazier, can you try to provide clarity? And if we're getting feedback?
Yeah, we actually do. We get feedback ongoing from families. This Easter Seals in particular is the one we primarily use for ESY services. And then we also do require our teams to review the data that comes back, because data is collected over the provision of services, and really take that into account as well.
Any other questions or comments? Is there a motion to approve? Is there a second? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
At this time, I believe we have a report of Finance Committee from Mrs. DiBonaventura.
Thank you. The Finance Committee met on Tuesday, February 3rd, and we had 4 items that we reviewed. The first one was a new mediation process for assessment appeals. This was implemented by the county to try and clean their docket out a little bit and get more municipalities and entities to go to mediation rather than go through the court system. So we're going to see if we can use that process to help them reduce the backlog of appeals. The second item was the review by the PA Auditor General regarding the performance audit report for the fiscal year ending June 2014. For some reason, we missed, do we have to vote on that, or we just have to accept it, right? Yeah. Okay. So we it fell through the cracks. We probably should have done this a little sooner. But the good news is the audit came back clean, and there were no findings of concern. So that's all good. The third issue that we talked about was the debt service portfolio review, which Mr. Willard talked about at the beginning of the meeting. The two big issues regard whether we how we structure $10 million in new money, whether we use a wraparound or a level 20-year payment. And the committee was not unanimous in its recommendation. The second issue was, since we're going to be going out for new borrowing anyway, it might be a good time to partially refund some of the 2007 bond issue. And as Mr. Willard described, we get $2 million. We're likely to get $2 million in savings, but we do leave about $1 million on the table in negative arbitrage. So the question became, do we take our chances with interest rates and hold off a little bit, or whether we go forward with that at this time? And then the last issue we talked about was the enrollment impact on the capital program. One of the reasons why our taxes are going up is because our enrollment is growing, and the more students we have, the more teachers we have, the more materials we have, the more space we need, the more buses we need, et cetera, et cetera. And so we were looking at the impact of additional students on our budget, and not only for this year, but we talked briefly about that possible impact moving forward. At our next facilities meeting, which we hope to schedule in mid-March, finance, thank you. I always say them backwards. The next finance committee meeting, which we hope to schedule in mid-March, we hope to talk a little more deeply about these long-term impacts of our enrollment growth, and continue to talk more about the budget.
Thank you very much. At this time, I think we have a report of the Facilities Purchasing Committee. Mr. Driscoll?
Thank you. The Facilities and Purchasing Committee met last Thursday, February 12th at 8:30 in this room. Just had 6 or 7 items on it. The first, just the typical list of bills that we get every month. We ran through that. We did have a contract for communications support that we discussed. We also looked at contracts for St. Joseph's University, that we rent space from them for graduation, given our large student body and all the people who come to see their kids graduate for both Harrod and Lower Merion in June. We discussed some of the contracts you saw earlier for professional developments that went through the curriculum committee. And we also reviewed a contract for the Element Environmental Solutions to do additional soil remediation at St. Justin's. As we dug through there was a buried fuel tank that had leaked some fuel. We also reviewed the construction projects at our elementary and middle school programs. At our elementary and middle schools, and discussed some scheduling issues trying to get through that in a timely fashion. Our next meeting will be on March 12th at 8:30 in this room. Thank you.
Under Business Office of Finance, I want to take the first 2 items together, approve the list of bills and approve the financial report for January 2015.
Any questions or comments on the list of bills? Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
The next recommended action item is the administration recommends that the Board of School Directors adopts the preliminary 2015-16 school district budget, which authorizes expenditures totaling $246,766,565 as presented in the attachment, levies a real estate tax of 26.299 mils, continues the 1% real estate transfer tax, and continues the $5 local services tax. Excuse me.
Is there a motion to approve the preliminary 15-16 budget? I'm sorry, questions or comments? Thank you. Please, did you have your hand up? All right, Maureen, I usually look to my left.
You can do your left first. I'm good with that. I just wanted to comment that this is the maximum and that we take these exceptions. You know, I think it's prudent that we do take these exceptions. However, we don't need to use them, that this is the maximum that we can, this is the maximum of our taxing authority, and that we will certainly do our best to bring it down while preserving the programs that the board feels are most important.
Thank you, Dr. O'Leary. Dr. Golden.
They basically wanted to make the same point that this is the ceiling, and if we don't adopt this, we can't increase the budget. So we can, but we can still decrease the budget before, am I correct, before we vote for the final budget in June?
Correct. This is, under Act 1, you're required by February 18th to adopt a preliminary budget. It is a preliminary budget until you approve the final budget in June. The board, at its pleasure, can make any type of revisions or modifications to the preliminary budget.
Additional questions, comments? Mr. Bonaventura.
I was actually going to make that same point as well. But also, Mr. Orlando, could you just talk to us briefly about what other means, the category other? I know in the presentation that you did last time, you did salaries, benefits, and other, and everyone saw this word other, and so if you could just flesh that out a little bit for us.
Sure, I'll try to do as briefly as I can. It's a little bit involved, but you're correct. The main two, let me back up. The school accounting code basically has different objects, and as Diane mentioned, 100 and 200 are salaries and benefits, which makes up the bulk of the budget, roughly 75%. There's another called other, which basically is objects 300 through 900. So, for example, purchase services I'll go by each object real briefly. 300 is purchase professional technical services, so that's roughly $6 million. So you have in there deals with IU services, which is special ed, therapists, consultants, attorneys, auditors, crossing guards, pool management, athletic trainers, anybody we contract with would be a 300 object. The 400 object is called purchase property services. That's roughly about $5 million. So electricity comes under 400. So all the buildings that we have, all the electricity, copiers, maintenance agreements, any type of repairs that we do is all under 400. 500 is called other purchase services. That's roughly $8 million. So any type of tuition that we paid. So VOTEC tuition we pay, charter school tuition we pay, out-of-district placements for special ed that we pay. We just talked about tonight ESY for Easter Show as an example of one. So what else do we have here? You have property and liability insurance, any type of contracted transportation services that we do, it's all under 500 object. 600 is supplies, so any type of supplies, whether it's school supplies, operating supplies, all that comes out of that. Textbooks, software, the fuel for our buildings, for furnaces, the gas, all that comes out of the 600, which is about $7 million. And then we have equipment, which is equipment. So you have computers, all the IT equipment we have, any type of operations equipment, buses, things of that nature come out of that. That's $3 million. Other objects, which basically is our interest on our bonds. So Glenn alluded, we do have a lot of bonds. Any type of professional dues and services, conference registration for staff development, all comes out of that. That's about $12 million. The bulk of that is towards the bond interest, the main, and the 900 is the bond principals that we have, which is about $17 million. So when you add that all together, that's that $59 million figure under other.
Great, thank you. And can I just ask, when we do our next budget presentation, if you can just have a bunch of slides on those different objects, and you don't have to read through them, or I'll just give us a minute to look at them and then move to the next one so that we can just process them all. That way we'll have it and people can look at it at their leisure and sort of process it. Thank you.
Any additional questions? Okay, I had one question. Mr. Orlando, the budget as it stands maintains all current class sizes, programs, the current
That
state
is correct.
of the district and what we offer to students at this time?
Correct.
Thank you. All right. Any additional questions? All right. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
The next item, the administration recommends that the Board of School Directors authorize the filing of budget exceptions in accordance with Act 1 to the Pennsylvania Department of Education.
Any questions or comments? Oh, Diane, please. Oh, is that your finger? Are you, yes? No, I don't have any. Do you have something?
Yes.
Okay, go.
Okay, thank you. So, can you just tell us what our Act 1 exceptions are?
Sure. There's 4 Act 1 exceptions, or 2 that we believe we're eligible for. One is special education. So we've seen a significant increase in education. What it does, it takes the last 2 fiscal years, less the revenue and the amount that's above the index, we will be eligible for. We believe that's $1.6 million. The second one is the retirement exception. So basically, the retirement rate, which is mandated by the state, is going to go up 21%. So that is going to potentially another $2 million for that exception. So between the two, it's $3.6 million.
And that retirement is new money that we're paying, not
That is
from the
correct.
baseline that we are already paying.
That's correct.
From last year.
20% increase from the current year to next year.
Any additional questions? Is there a motion to approve? Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
The next item, the administration recommends the Board of School Directors approve the resolution to proceed by authorizing proper officers of the district, the solicitor, designated bond counsel, designated financial advisor to take certain actions relative to the issuance of the general obligation bonds per the attachment. And in the attachment, section 1, the Board of School Directors determines to proceed with the 2015 capital projects and financing thereof, issuance of the 2015 aid bonds, and directs the financial advisor to structure the debt service on a substantially level debt service basis. Section 2, the Board of School Director determines to proceed with the 2015 refunding project by recalling for redemption approximately $31 million of principal amount of the 2007 bonds.
Any questions or comments? Please.
Thank you. Sorry, this is my area. I have a question about the wraparound versus the 20-year level payments, and I know that the argument in favor of doing it that way is it provides additional flexibility to future boards for borrowing. Although when I look at this, if we do the flat or the level payments, if we were to do a wraparound down the road, we'd get some benefit in 26, we'd get a little more benefit in 27, and we'd finish in 28. If we wait and if we do a wraparound now, and then find we need to do a little more borrowing, we could do a wraparound again, and we'd get a little bit in 26, just a tiny bit, a little bit more in 27, and then we could retire the entire, unless we borrow over $15 million, we could retire the entire debt in 28. So the way I look at it, the flexibility in terms of using wraparound in the future is the same. There's also the advantage that you could always do a flat in the future. So if in 2 years or 3 years we wanted to borrow money, we could use the flat, the level payments that we're using now. To me, the advantage of using the wraparound now is we save the district about $400 million over 20 years, and we reduce the impact. I'm sorry, 400,000, sorry. Too many zeros there, I got a little carried away, I apologize. $400,000 over 4 years, over 20 years, and reduce the millage impact in the next, not in the first year, but in the second year. So I know the administration is recommending that we do the 20-year level. They did say at the meeting that it was a judgment call, and so I'd just like everybody to consider the possibility of doing the RAP instead.
I mean,
Please, Mr. Driscoll.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't. I get it, but I think the other issue we have, if Diane, if I understand where you're going, of doing RAP today, level future, is we are gambling on what the interest rates will be in the future. And I think while we are seeing a slightly higher interest rate with the level, the theory is take the hit now while we do know interest rates are low, and see what and hope and leave that flexibility. So I get it. I understand that, and I recognize this is a difficult conversation to have, but I'm wondering if a bigger debt, a bigger balance we need to borrow at a later time when interest rates are higher, I'm wondering if it's penny wise today, pound foolish tomorrow is my fear. That's my 2 cents.
Additional? Please?
The only thought with that is we're borrowing the money now, $10 million now, so we're paying the interest rate that we get now. Either we pay it over 20 years or we do this wraparound. The interest rates in 2 or 3 years are going to be what the interest rates are going to be, and I'm not sure that I understand that if we have to borrow $10 million 3 years from now, what that interest rate's going to be would affect our decision now, because it's going to be the interest rate that it's going to be, and at that time we can look at whether wraparound is better or a level payment is better. But the interest rate's going to be what the interest rate's going to be. I'm not sure how that plays into the decision.
Dr. Gilbert, please.
Well, Mr. Orlando, I don't know if you want to explain why you're making the recommendation that you're making, but my concern is that, and so I will let you do that as soon as I'm finished, of course. My concern is that given our enrollment numbers, I mean, if we are in a situation where we don't know what we're going to need to be doing in order to accommodate potential increases in the number of students, particularly given the number of developments that keep getting approved here. And, I don't want to tie future boards and cause them to be, essentially the taxpayers will be paying more over the long term. And, we've done that before when we built the high schools, and those got delayed, and we ended up paying a lot more because, construction costs went up. And it's kind of, obviously, if I had a crystal ball and could see what interest rates were, I probably wouldn't have to be here. I could be doing other things, but, interest rates are pretty low right now. It's hard not to see the potential for them to be going higher. But Vic, maybe you could make your own argument.
I don't know. Yeah, I think you're right. You don't know what the crystal ball is, and if you do have, and obviously we're seeing growth, and probably going to see more growth probably coming down the road, not knowing what exactly our needs would be, and what the borrowings potentially could look like. I think and Glenn's not here. He left early, but that's okay. Left me with, that's all right. That's okay. Yeah, let me get. We went around and around with different scenarios, looking at different things, and I think the conclusion was not having a crystal ball, knowing what the future is, to try to give the board as much flexibility for future projects, and also giving Glenn's folks the ability to structure things maybe differently because of having a drop-off a year earlier, so I think that was kind of our thinking. I mean, Diane's right, it's a close call, and I think we said that in a couple different meetings, and we spent hours going back and forth, with that, but, I mean, that was our feeling. And as Glenn mentioned, with the refunding, if it comes to what it is, you can phase that in over, at least a couple year period of time. There's some more refunding possibly next year. You can probably even phase it in maybe even longer, so you can minimize the impact and still gain the flexibility. So I think that was our thought pattern and a recommendation to the board, but it is a close call.
Thank you.
Yeah, I wanted to follow up in terms of Dr. Gilbert's statement with obviously the flexibility and the need for allowing for growth. And one of the members of the audience made a statement and in jest, I believe, in terms of no one's providing special education services, so they're all coming here. I don't know how true that is, but what I pull away from that statement is the reality is that there are more individuals wanting to gain that Lower Merion experience, and we're seeing that. And I think the level provides future boards with that flexibility and the need that we need to move in that direction. So I wanted to echo that statement.
I just want to follow up, because we did talk about this, and the difference is not in the amount of money we would save in the future. The flexibility is not with the amount of money that we might save. It has to do with the way we would structure the debt, whether we would, and so I think, Melissa, if I heard what you said, you were suggesting that since we don't know how much we may need to borrow in the future, it's cheaper, penny wise, pound foolish. It would be cheaper to do it this way than that way. We don't know for sure. There's no way to know for sure which way. The flexibility has nothing to do with the expense of the borrowing. It has to do with the way the borrowing is
But it does have to do with
structured.
the fact that if we actually have to borrow a significant amount of money because we actually have to put additional construction costs in, that is going to tie the hands of future boards who are going to have to try and figure out how exactly they're going to be able to do that, given the structure we were putting in place today. So, I hear what you're saying, and I disagree with you. I mean, I think that the recommendation of the administration in this case is prudent, and I do understand that it's a close call, but given our enrollment growth, and given, and again, we don't have a crystal ball, although we do have some data to suggest that we have enrollment growth, and that data has been accurate, and we're going to be doing another follow-up study to continue to do that. It's concerning to me that we would not be providing future boards those kinds of flexibility.
But we're not, correct me if I'm wrong, the only flexibility that we're taking away was the possibility of a year earlier debt. If they did a debt reduction, if they did a wraparound, they'd retire the debt a year earlier. And actually, if you look at them, the difference is 4.5 million versus $500,000. Then the same year, then it's about 2.5 roughly the third year. And then the difference is it's 8.3 the last year or 14 million the the debt retires at the same time if you do a wraparound for anything more than about $3 million. So I guess we do just disagree, Dr. Gilbert, on this, because I don't think it limits a future board in any way, shape, or form in terms of what they're going to do. We don't know. I mean, we might get 300 new students in the next 3 years and need to build a new building. Who knows? But this does not affect how we would borrow it, other than perhaps delaying a year, possibly, in how quickly we wrap the debt around, should we choose that. So, all right, I don't want to beat a dead horse on this, but.
Any additional questions or comments? Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
What are we moving? Because we have to pick the
So,
pieces.
so we're clear, the motion to approve is approving the administrative recommendation where you're taking the resolution and checking the box on a substantially, in section 1, on a substantially level debt service basis, and in section 2, the middle box, calling for the redemption approximately 31,470,000 principal amount of the 2007 bonds. That's what the motion is pending. Stats.
But I can take this in one motion, correct?
Oh, shit. Oh, yeah, it's
Okay.
all one,
It's one.
it's all one
Okay.
resolution.
One resolution,
Okay, I just have a clarification. So we have voted to, previously, we have not,
We're in the middle of it.
okay. So this authorization to proceed is where we are right now. Okay.
All in favor? I'm sorry, is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. All opposed?
You need to do a roll call.
Okay, roll call. You'll call for me, Denise?
I certainly will.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Ackman? Dr. Golden? Ms. DiBonaventuro?
No.
Dr. Gilbert?
Yes.
Ms. Pollard?
Nay.
Ms. Robinson?
Yes.
Mr. Driscoll?
Yes.
Dr. O'Leary?
Nay.
Dr. Van Lynch?
Yes.
We have 6 in favor and 3 opposed.
Okay, the motion carries 6-3.
And we just have 2 other motions. The administration recommends that the Board of School Directors acknowledge receipt of the Auditor General's report of June 2014, and also authorize disposal of surplus equipment as per the attachment.
Any questions or comments? Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
There a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Under facilities, we just have 2 recommended action items. Mr. Driscoll went over them. To approve the license agreement with St. Joe's for the Harrington and Lower Marion High School graduation ceremonies in June 2014 for estimated fee of $15,000 per school. And then the other one is to approve the additional environmental and testing services to Element Environmental Services existing contract for an additional amount of $2,300.
Is there a motion, I'm sorry, questions or comments? Ken, clarification on something?
No, but you need to go back. I don't think that you ever did the one on authorizing disposition of surplus equipment. I think you did it, you combined
I
it?
did 2 together.
All right, we didn't pick that up over here. Okay, you're all good.
All right, questions or comments? Is there a motion to approve?
I so move.
Is there a second? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. We will now move to Board of Directors, old business. I have one report I need to share. Okay. I wanted to provide the Lower Marion School District community on the ongoing search for a new district superintendent. Our search firm, BWP and Associates, recently concluded a public engagement process that yielded important feedback from thousands of community members. A summary report describing the qualities and skills that this community values in its next school leader is now available on the district website. Thank you to all of those who participated in our focus group conversations, 18 public forums, and our online survey. Your input will be critical in guiding the Board of School Directors in the hiring of a new superintendent. At this time, we will continue to work closely with our consultants as we move forward in the process of reviewing candidates. Our goal is to identify high-quality candidates and ultimately reach a decision on a new superintendent by the end of spring. Thank you for your continued interest and support. Questions and comments can be directed to our board email address, communitycomments, one word, at lmsd.org. And thank you to Ms. Schaefer and Mr. Young for assistance in getting the information up on the website and accessible to the community. We will now have a report of the Policy Committee from Ms. Robinson.
Thank you. The Policy Committee of the Board met on February 6, 2015. The following policies were reviewed for a second reading. Policy number 806, child abuse. Policy 809, and the AR, contracted services. Policy 353, required clearances for administrative employees. Policy 453, required clearances for professional employees. Policy 553, required clearances for classified employees. And policy number 320, 420, and 520 in the ARs, reporting arrests and convictions for those classes of people. The primary change to all of these policies is related to a change in the Child Protective Services Law. The law now requires individuals covered by the policy to get clearances every 3 years. This is the change from the current once and done policy. The Policy Committee also has for first reading Policy 125 Summer School and Policy 908 Volunteers. Policy 908 was discussed but not moved to a second reading at this time. Additional administrative review and coordination is required before it can move forward. We also reviewed policies 124. No, we didn't actually. Policy 130, guidelines concerning religion, was reviewed, and additional administrative review and crafting is required. It will come back with administrative regulations. We also reviewed the following administrative regulations: AR 506, child abuse; AR 908, volunteers; and AR 353, 453, and 553, required clearances for employees. The meeting adjourned at 10 a.m. and we did not get any further in the agenda. The next meeting of the Policy Committee will be on March 5th, which is a Thursday, which is a day change from the usual Friday meetings. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Robinson. The following policies were reviewed for a second reading: Policy 806, child abuse; Policy 809, contracted services; Policy 353, required clearances, administrative employees; Policy 453, required clearances, professional employees; Policy 553, required clearances, classified employees; and Policy 320, 420, and 520, reporting arrests and convictions. Are there questions or comments? Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. The following policies were reviewed for a first reading: Policy 125, summer school, and Policy 908, volunteers. Are there questions or comments on those policies? Oh, please.
Yeah, just to point out that these were on the first reading policies for last month as well. They're being kept on the agenda as first reading policies, just as a placeholder, but they're not being moved forward at this time.
Okay. But we can ask questions.
Absolutely.
Okay. Are there questions or comments on either Policy 125 or 908? Okay. Okay. Now we will have a report of the Legislative Committee by Dr. O'Leary.
The Legislative Committee has not met since we reported out last time, but I did want to report that this Thursday night at 7:30 in this room in the DAO building, we'll have most of our local legislators at the state level here to have a conversation about educational priorities and legislation, and the community is most welcome to attend.
Could you name some of the legislators that you have been so gracious to invite to come hear us?
Sure.
That might get more people out, I think.
It's at 7:30 p.m. Tim Briggs will be there, Mary Jo Daly, Dalen Leach are the confirmed. We're absolutely sure. Other people have schedules that change by the moment, so we will see who else comes, but we know those three are coming.
Thank you for organizing that important forum for the board and the community, Dr. O'Leary. At this time, we will now have audience recognition on non-agenda items or any agenda or non-agenda item at this time. Again, if you could sign up with Ms. LaPera, there is a 3-minute time limit, and if you could let us know let us know your name and where you reside in the district.
Hi, my name is Adrienne Seltzer. That's okay. Thank you for making me wait. I now have 30 more questions. I guess, first I would like to know, really, how many of you really understood what Diane was saying about the debt service? It's a very complicated issue, and I don't know how many of you really understood that. I have a degree in accounting, okay. That $80,000 they were talking about for the debt service, will I be able to get an answer to where that is in the budget? Will I be able to get an answer as to how much is actually spent in legal fees? I know Mr. Orlando went over the accounts, how they're broken down briefly, but I know because of that degree in accounting that the more stuff is grouped together, the easier it is to hide stuff. And that could be stuff that you could go over and find where you were able to cut expenses. I noticed as you were going through the agendas here, hold on, the thing about the Easter seals, it was answered that there was feedback, but it wasn't answered whether that feedback was positive, and you went ahead and approved it anyway. So stuff like that makes the township get the impression that it is a blank check. You approved everything there without even doing it. Is it possible, instead of every second kindergarten to second grade teacher going for staff development, that a few teachers go for the staff development and bring that information back to the rest of them? Would that cut costs? Have you thought about that? What actually is the interest rate from the 2007 versus what you'd be paying now, and the debt that you want to retire? And I noticed that there is no finance committee meetings coming up in the next few months, and especially since if you want to be going over ways to reduce the amount that the increase is going to be, it might be hard to do if you don't even have a finance committee meeting. So, and do I actually get answers to that, or is there a way to get answers to the questions that I've asked? Or is it just, into the Ethernet and nothing else happens? Can someone answer that?
Well, I will not answer your previous question, in which I can understand that individuals are extremely concerned and have questions around districts in terms of this board and this administration being fiscally responsible. But so I want to make sure there's a tone of respect when we have conversations with regards to how many of you really understood what Ms. Diane DeBoer-Ventura is doing. I won't answer that question. When you talk a little bit about where are the cost savings in terms of approving, why did we quickly go to Easter Seal and say yes? We said yes because our administrators and teachers deemed it to be appropriately fitting to continue that particular service. If it didn't, if there was not, we would not have brought it up for a motion for approval. When you talk about professional learning experiences, and I can understand how you would see that in terms of do we take one teacher and provide that level of training? We understand that for true growth to occur, we want teachers to collaborate and share the same experiences. We understand that a one-shot, send someone to a service and then have them come back and regurgitate information that they may or may not have fully vetted through is not the most effective way to do that. So we do think that it is extremely important that a core group of our teachers, when they go, get professional development, professional learning experiences at the same time. And we felt that Kagan was extremely appropriate for that.
I just want to add that this information has all been vetted through committee meetings extensively, as well as an executive session by the board. So we have ample opportunity to have conversations about some of the issues you raised.
I just thought it was strange, saying grammar.
And just quickly, I did mention in my Finance Committee report that we're going to schedule a Finance Committee for the middle of March. It just hasn't been set yet, but there will be one in the middle of March.
Okay, Mr. Keith?
Yes, hi, my name is Albert Keefe. I live on Wingate Road in Wynwood. I had a couple comments, but a question, which is primary. I noticed several of the board members this evening mentioned this impending enrollment issue. And that surprises me to some degree, in that in the recent past we've spent hundreds of millions of dollars building and rebuilding all of our schools and high schools. And my question is, what due diligence was done in the past? And maybe this board doesn't know because many of you weren't there at that point in time, but we could probably research this. I'd be very curious about what due diligence was done, and specifically maybe what outside resources, actuarial firms, et cetera, did that kind of projection. Because it would seem to me those projections were woefully lacking if we're now, so concerned with this enrollment growth. I mean, enrollment, population, demographics don't switch in 2 or 3 years. So this trend should have been evident, I would think, back then. And I guess my follow-up question on that is, if you agree with that premise, what action are we contemplating against whoever those outside resources were? And specifically, I think we should put whoever those firms are on notice of an impending D&O would be, I think, the right insurance product of a potential D&O claim that the township would want to file against these firms. I don't see that the taxpayer should bear the burden of another building onslaught because somebody got it wrong. I think there's probably some school of thought in the township that if the responsible party, if there is one, hasn't done the right job, and if we're not pursuing it, then perhaps the taxpayer should pursue the board or the school district. And, quite frankly, I was an insurance broker most of my career. If that happens, it's very likely the board members are going to be sued individually as well as collectively as a board. So as a friendly gesture, I guess, I would really recommend this board check with your insurance brokers and make sure you're adequately insured, because I think the onslaught of lawsuits is near, very near. And I think it's not just that issue, it's all these issues that are precipitating these gigantic tax increases. Okay, so I do mean these to be constructive and friendly comments, and I hope you'll take them that way. Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
That was all I had.
Did you read the sunshine? Yep. All right. That's right. I got it. Okay. In accordance with the Act 93 of 1998, the Sunshine Law, the Board of School Directors met in executive information sessions on the following dates and discussed February 9th, 2015, real estate, personnel, and litigation, and February 17th, 2015, real estate, personnel, and litigation. Upcoming meetings, Thursday, February 19th, as Dr. O'Leary mentioned, we'll have our legislative forum at 7:30 p.m. Wednesday, February 25th, our Communications Committee will meet at 7 p.m. Monday, March 2nd, our Curriculum Committee will meet at 8:30 a.m. Thursday, March 5th, our Policy Committee will meet at 8:30 a.m. Monday, March 9th will be our Education Committee and Supplementary Regular Board meeting at 8 p.m. Wednesday, March 11th, Communications meeting, 8:30 a.m. Thursday, March 12th, Facilities and Purchasing Committee meeting, 8:30 a.m. Monday, March 16th, regular board meeting, 8 p.m. And Tuesday, March 24th, Legislative Committee at 8:30 a.m. With that, we are adjourned.